Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Aaron here from the Cool Story Show, joined by my friend Dave Meyer.
Yo, yo.
And we're back talking Who once again. This week we watched Time Heist, the 5th episode in the 8th season. Dave, what did you think about the episode?
I liked it. Didn't necessarily like it as much as last week's episode, which was Listen.
Oh, great episode.
Incredible episode.
Yeah.
Just loved it. But there was a couple of moments of this episode that I did like that we will get into later. Some things I didn't like, but what did you think about it?
Really good. I especially like how I feel like the direction and the cinematography, the shows look really good now. They look kind of modernized and updated, and they don't look they don't look hokey like they used to so much. Especially I'm thinking back to like David
Eccleston
Tennant
and early Tennant and that.
Yeah, they don't look so cheap and hokey anymore. Like you can see that they actually have money to spend on effects now, which, I think there's some like Doctor Who kind of old school elitist kind of fans who might not like that very much, but I don't have a problem with it. I think it looks great. I thought the bank looked really cool. I thought the monster looked great. I think, and everything leading up so far this season has looked really good too. Like even when they go minimal special effects, and when you just look at set design and costumes and props and just little details, you can see that it's actually like there's a little more work and a little more money behind the production now than there used to be.
And they're all compelling. Like they're all kind of different. They're kind of different Doctor Who episodes, and each one is really cool with what they're bringing to the show and what they're introducing and how different they're doing. Like they've never done a Robin Hood one, to my knowledge, before.
And that's almost kind of like a fantasy-ish one. Like it's like they go back and meet a fictional character from history, not a real character from history, which is cool because I guess according to Stephen Moffat, Robin Hood was real. But anyway, that was really cool because you'd never see one of the other doctors go back to meet a fictional character, which is interesting. Each of the 5 episodes have been pretty different. They've all been kind of unique and all in their own style, which is cool. One interesting thing, a little tidbit I noticed is that you remember Listen? He was wearing that orange suit. That same suit has been worn by Matt Smith and David Tennant. Basically, that identical suit has been worn by those 3 doctors.
I think it goes back even farther than that. I'm almost positive they used it in older Doctor Who too.
I can't think of an Eccleston time, but I know. I want to say it's like the Devil's Pit where Tennant's stuck on that planet and he wants to go down into that pit to see if the devil actually exists there. He's wearing that orange suit, and I know for a fact that there is a Matt Smith episode where he's wearing it too. And then we had the Doctor wear it in last week's episode. Listen, I just thought that was interesting how they just that suit made
I'm almost positive that it's older Doctor Who too. And interesting fact about that suit, I don't remember which way it went, but either I think it got reused from Star Wars from one of the bounty hunters, or vice versa.
Really?
I don't remember the name of the bounty hunter, but it's the lizard one. It's basically almost the same suit.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but okay.
I'd have to correct.
I can't remember. I know the lizard guy.
It was a cool fact I saw on Reddit, but
you know what else I like? Just for like plot wise of the show, I like when the time travel is used as a part of the plot and not just like a way to get them to a spot. So like,
that's true.
Basically, the whole thing was a timey-wimey ball. Like he goes to rob the bank, and it actually was he set up the robbery in, I guess, the future. So I just think that's cool when time travel is more of a plot device than just a little thing at the beginning and the end of the episode that just takes them to and away from a destination.
Well, we saw it a lot more with Matt Smith, but there hasn't been too many episodes where they really kind of combined a lot of time travel to blow your mind with what they could do with it. Whether it be, stories like this one where he gets the phone call from
the lady that he's already met from way in the future to set up the heist that he hasn't done yet, but to her, she already has done it.
Yeah.
And that, if I'm not mistaken, that lady's name is Madam, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but it's
Calabraxis, I think.
Carabraxis? Yeah. Madam Carabraxis, who played by Keely Hawes. Cool actor.
Loved her character.
Pretty funny. I actually like the clone of her more, Delphox, the redheaded like bank security lady. She was pretty funny, I thought. Like she was funny, but like not funny. She was just like,
And she can't stand herself either, or her clones, I should say.
No, and she keeps disposing of them in the incinerator.
when they get useless.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the episode?
The only thing...
Anything you didn't like about it? We talked about some stuff we did like about it. Anything you kind of thought like,
The only thing I didn't really like about it too much is it's supposed to be the most advanced bank in all of the universe in any point in time, apparently. And to me, the bank just kind of looked a little hokey. Now, I don't know if that was because like the teller was there and that ensured that they had some more security with the bank, but I kind of pictured something different in my mind as far as what the bank would look like.
I like the idea of the Doctor robbing a bank, though. I think that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
That's interesting. He's together with like a team of people robbing the most secure bank. And that's something that only Capaldi would do.
Yeah.
I don't think Matt Smith... Well, I mean, Matt Smith or Tennant may have done that, but, probably wouldn't have been okay with it as much as Capaldi was, I think.
So,
speaking of Capaldi, once again, we see this new Doctor. Every episode we get a new taste of him. What did you... any thoughts on him this episode? Anything cool stand out to you?
not necessarily too much than other episodes. I mean, he's coming into it a lot more. I mean, we're the 5th episode in. I've definitely come to accept him as the Doctor. I still think that it's kind of weird not seeing kind of the Matt Smith whiz of the sonic screwdriver where he was always looking at it and using it.
He doesn't use the sonic screwdriver,
No, he doesn't use it at all.
He used
really.
it once in this whole episode, and Matt Smith had that thing out all the time.
Giving him readings, looking at stuff.
Tennant used it, Eccleston used it, not quite as much as Smith, but Capaldi, almost doesn't touch it. Or his psychic paper, which he finally used for the first time last week, but he barely uses that either.
Yeah.
He's not into his gadgets anymore. I think he's...
Or maybe it's because he's old enough now to where he doesn't need them. He just kind of knows how things are working.
Could be. It could be.
But no, I think Capaldi's doing, as always, an
something
excellent
interesting. A couple of interesting things is I like how he's totally insulting to people, which we've seen in the first 4 episodes. And I don't think he's actually trying to be insulting. It's like he's a little kid who's asking an inappropriate question, but doesn't realize that it's inappropriate. He's what does he ask Claire? Why is your face so colored in? Which is pretty insulting to ask a girl, but it's totally over his head because he doesn't get it. It's just he's he doesn't understand that he's being totally insulting to people that he talks to.
Yeah, and he didn't also get that she was wearing the high heels and she said to look at a painting or something?
I don't know.
To get something off a top shelf or whatever, and it just kind of flew right over his head.
Yeah, which is interesting that he doesn't comprehend the fact that he's being just kind of a dick all the time. But I think he's still a good guy. But
I mean, he helped her.
He did. An interesting point that I'm starting to see with him is he doesn't really care about the individual life like the other Doctors would have. Because I can tell you this right now. There was this scene in the start of this episode where they're in the lobby of the bank, and that guy, the teller, who can sense people's thoughts and tell if there's criminal intent, senses this guy, and they start basically he just reads his thoughts, and then he devours his memories, which melts the guy's brain, and the guy's dying. Well, not dying, but he's getting his brain smushed to nothing. And Clara says, "This isn't right. You got to help him." And he says, "He's there's no helping him. He's already gone." And the guy's kind of crying a little bit and tearing up, and as he's getting his brain melted, Clara says, look, he's in pain, help him. And he says, "Those aren't tears, that's soup." And Tennant would have literally reset the universe to save one life. He would never have put up with one life being killed like that in front of his own eyes. He would have literally sacrificed himself to save that one person. So it's Smith, I think, in a way. And Capaldi just won't. He doesn't care about that one life. As long as it seems like he's more we're alive, that one guy's already dead, let's just move on kind of thing.
Basically. And we saw that with Into the Dalek, where that one guy got killed, and he makes the joke about
by the security whatever
blood cells.
Dalek,
yeah, and then makes the joke about saying goodbye to the top layer of the stomach or whatever it was, because that was the dead guy. Where I think Smith and Tennant would have been a little bit more remorseful.
Well, they would have never let anybody die in the first place. That's the thing. Smith and Tennant would have never let that happen. The whole episode would have been about them trying to save that one guy, whereas Capaldi just skips right over that and doesn't care.
Exactly.
What about Miss Oswald this episode? She played, I'm going to say, a pretty small part. Like, she was there the whole episode, but I can't think of anything big she brought to the show.
Except her good looks.
Oh, her good looks are pretty big.
Her in that suit.
She has massive good looks.
Yeah. Gorgeous girl.
But, unlike Listen, where she was a massively integral character to that whole plot, and to all the doctors, yeah, I don't know. I can't honestly recall. We just watched this episode. We just finished watching it, and I can't recall really anything that she did that was a game changer for the show. This episode was really about the Doctor, the Heist, Sai, and Sabrera. What did you think about Clara with this episode?
Clara didn't really help out too much as far as, like you said, the episode, it seemed. What she did do is, of course, always accompanied the Doctor on another journey, which she seemed kind of far away from because she was just about to go on a date with Danny Pink. But from the phone call that we got, she was able to be convinced to go, obviously, away with the Doctor. One thing I did notice about this episode was how the Doctor, when he's talking about the architect, knows that he hates the architect. He knows that for a fact, which, as you come to realize later in the episode, that the architect is the Doctor, so technically he hates himself. And I've always kind of wondered, why does he hate himself, or for what reason does the Doctor hate himself? And that's something that I've tried to think about this episode. Why do you think he hates himself?
It is interesting how he keeps talking about how he hates the architect because he's overbearing and demanding, and we realize by the end of the episode that the architect is the Doctor because he's the one who created the whole thing. And maybe it's part of that he doesn't hate himself, but he doesn't understand himself anymore as the Doctor. He doesn't know quite who he is. We kind of touched on it, like we said. He's acting kind of like a child, and his regenerations were reset completely. So, his mindset's totally different now. He's past the 12th stage already. So it's, or he's in the 12th stage, I should say. But, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
What about our lovely supporting cast in this episode? So let's start with Sai.
Sai, who was played by?
Sai was played by a gentleman named Jonathan Bailey.
Liked him.
What did you think about him? A metahuman. Augmented implants.
He was pretty cool. I really liked how he played kind of an essential role with hacking into the computer system, because it seems like when you rob any type of bank, you need a hacker, somebody who can fool the guards with what they look like, and then the mastermind, which was obviously the Doctor.
Yeah, being able to break into the computer system with a metahuman or a cyborg type guy, pretty cool. Actually, he was an interesting character. He was likable. He wasn't a huge character in the overall plot. Maybe we'll see him back one day. I'm kind of thinking, maybe Capaldi will have his own little quartet of new people eventually, and like maybe Sai and Zebria, however you pronounce that name. I think the Doctor was calling her Sabria. Might be part of his new little group of friends. Like Matt Smith had his group, and Tennant has his little group of friends. So, well,
they did confirm that supposedly this season there's supposed to be multiple companions traveling with the Doctor, and I think Danny Pink's going to be one of them. And I'd like to see
Danny Pink will for sure be one. There's no way that won't work out. He has to be one of them. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's happened with all the other companion boyfriends in the last, however many years. They've all come along. So will Danny Pink.
Yeah, but I'd like to see these other two members come join us again, or come join them on a whole group adventure.
Would be cool. Eventually to see Capaldi with more people than just Clara. Okay, so Sai was cool. Zebria, the human mutant. What did you think of her? She was kind of interesting.
What I was really kind of hoping that never happened is she said that she can take over a person's face and appearance, and she kind of mentioned like what would happen if she touched the Doctor. But what do you think would have happened if she would have touched the Doctor? What face do you think would have come out?
Interesting. Maybe it wasn't. Well, maybe it wouldn't have been Capaldi's.
Maybe there would be no face because maybe the Doctor's faceless, or maybe the original Doctor.
Or that's interesting. It could. Yeah, I never thought of that actually. Yeah, that's interesting. She kind of reminded me of like a little bit of like a rogue from X-Men type thing. Like she couldn't touch people.
Yeah.
Like it was like her curse kind of thing. And I found it interesting that Sai and Zabria were both there to get a cure, basically. Because Sai had no memory, so he was there to get this thing that would bring his a memory putter back, or I think the Doctor called it. And then Zabria was there to get a genetic modifier that would get rid of her mutation. And that's what drove them to be there, which I thought was cool. And what drove the Doctor to be there was to set up the heist to be there, because the lady that I remember her name, Madame Carabraxis, wanted to save the last two of the monsters of this lovely show, which I think the only way they refer to them is the Teller. And it's this big towering monster who can read your mind and melt your brain. He was pretty cool. What'd you think of the monster? He wasn't the greatest, most interesting, scariest thing I've ever seen, but he had a kind of a cool presence. Like when he showed up, you're like, oh fuck, like, uh-oh.
Yeah, definitely.
They're in trouble now.
Definitely a huge presence, and that's where you can see Moffat's rating coming in.
It was kind of cool how he was like in a straitjacket and he was like a prisoner, and you really didn't know what he was. That first scene where he walks out into the like the lobby where everybody is. Yeah, that was really cool. I thought he was really neat. And then you find out that there's actually, he's not the last of his species, like Madame Carabraxis. Did I get that right, Dave?
I think so.
Okay. Says there's actually two left. She's got one imprisoned, I'm assuming a female, and he's the male, and that's why he's doing this. And the Doctor frees them at the end, which was cool. It reminded me a little bit of like a Matt Smithis
David Tennant type thing.
Yeah. Like they actually try to help the bad guy at the end, which you don't see, which is why the Doctor's so fucking cool. Cool bad guy though, like kind of cool, kind of interesting. I don't think we'll probably ever see it again. He did save them at the end and brought them to like a planet to be together alone in solitude with no one else there, which was
rebuild
nice.
Their species.
Right. So maybe we'll see them again down the road. Maybe that species will owe something to the Doctor because he saved them really down the road. What about the actual, I guess we'll call her, I guess she was kind of the bad guy, good guy, bad guy, but we talked about her a little bit now. Madame Carabraxis, who cloned herself and ran the bank and was basically the reason for this whole episode that had happened. What did you think about her, Dave?
Just basically agreed. I mean, look at her. She's got her own bank vault where she keeps all the greatest treasures in the universe, which, from looking at it, was a lot of stuff to do with human history. And she made clones of herself to run her enterprise while she essentially just hung out with all her most valuable things.
And then disposed of her clones in an incinerator.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I know you thought this when we were watching the episode. I thought it. What did we not see?
We did not see Missy or any references to heaven again.
Again. Yeah. That's big. That's a big deal. Or we didn't see any references to the Promised Land, which we've seen in 2 episodes. We've seen Missy in 2 episodes now, too. Still don't know if those are connected, if the Promised Land is something opposite of Heaven and Missy, but they could be the same thing. They might not be the same thing at all.
There was another reference made towards the lady in the shop giving Clara the phone number.
Right.
They don't know who that is.
They have no idea who that is, which is interesting.
Which seems to be a reoccurring theme that they're probably going to touch on this season.
The phone on the box, on the TARDIS, is becoming more integral than it really has ever been used before, except like once. Ever with Matt Smith, or that's all I can think of really.
Well, one thing I was reading about is they were saying that the phone is going to be used a bit more because Handels wanted him to fix it in Matt Smith's last episode.
Right.
But supposedly that's going to be a type of timeline thing where they can connect you back to previous Doctors and maybe even older companions, newer storylines. Basically, it kind of gives them a way out to kind of bring more things back into Doctor Who, where you can touch back on things with just a simple.
You know what I
phone
would
call.
love? I'd love for Capaldi's Doctor to meet Donna Noble. That would be fucking straight up ridiculous. They would just fight. They would get nothing done, and it would be hilarious. That'd be awesome.
Another thing I was thinking about today that was bugging me is in what was the episode called? The Doctor Who 50th.
Day of the Doctor?
The Day of the Doctor.
Yeah.
We have that brief kind of cameo of all the Doctors coming towards Gallifrey to save Gallifrey.
Right. And they say...
a brief appearance of the 13th Doctor comes in.
They say they're all here. Something like, they're like, 1, 8, 11, even the 13th. And you see the fucking attack eyebrows pop up on screen, and that's it. So at some point during Capaldi's season, we're going to have to see him go back in time to help Matt Smith...
And all the Doctors.
And all the Doctors.
But what's bugging me even more about it is either he's not... Like, you'd think that somebody knew from... Like, Matt Smith knew that he was going to save Gallifrey somehow. But it's kind of like Capaldi doesn't know that. Or he's...
Because he's... Well, technically, I guess he's already saved Gallifrey.
Not currently, though.
Capaldi has already done it.
No, he hasn't.
But Matt Smith did it.
Matt Smith did it, but Capaldi hasn't done it yet because he just generated into Capaldi. So Capaldi hasn't gone back to save Gallifrey.
That's some timey-wimey stuff right there. And that's how we should classify it, because it doesn't make any sense.
So maybe he doesn't know that he's going to go back and save Gallifrey.
That's a big ball of timey-wiminess, because that a guy who's already saved Gallifrey doesn't know he saved Gallifrey because he hasn't done it yet.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is what you were talking about with the time travel stuff earlier.
Yeah. All right, everyone. This has been another Let's Talk Who with the Cool Story Show. Aaron and Dave here. Remember to go over to our YouTube channel. Check out our other shows. We got Quickies. We got Up All Nights. They're awesome. We got podcasts. And just so you're all aware, we might be coming to iTunes pretty soon. We might be coming to some other places. Keep a lookout. We'll let you know. I'm Aaron on Corbett48 on Twitter.
I'm Dave Meyer 7. Let's Talk Who next week.
Thanks for listening, everybody.